Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon, and we're almost at the full moon. And ascendant is 11 degree Aquarius, and the moon is 11 degree Taurus, applying to be full moon in Taurus. Mid-heaven 20 is 7 degrees Scorpio, and it's Mercury hour, Mercury day, with Mercury 5 degrees Sagittarius, Jupiter Procyon. Now, I want to talk about Uranus. Let's talk about the 11th degree as something other than just suicide or accidents. Um, with Uranus, here's something that happened to me when I was traveling in Amsterdam. I was not really traveling, but I pretended that I'm traveling, and so at that time I was creating the analogy of how to learn to belly dance. Um, I recreationally learned the belly dance for 5 years, and it was really, I'm not that talented. Like, but the way that people learn is basically to separate, let's say, lower body, then upper body, and then unite the movement. And the process feels like until you master something in one part, then you move to the other part, and then to try to unite them together, it feels like you forgot everything. And and then Uranus has this way of kind of doing a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and then unifying everything. Now we are fractions of a millisecond before Uranus returns to his final dip into Taurus and out. So we are going to tend to the thing since 2018, and a lot of us are going to have this magical experience, especially when Uranus is sextiling Neptune. And this is where, when I was in Amsterdam, so I was traveling a little bit to this neighborhood, a little bit to that neighborhood, and so on. And then somebody gave me a ticket that I could travel, and I took the ride through nearly all Amsterdam. And all the little regions in the city became suddenly connected. So it was like the full picture is coming to fruition out of the parts. And this is the process of Uranus going through each and every trajectory. So we want to think since 2018 to basically 2026. In fact, what I experienced first with Uranus in Gemini was taking the normal bus to the city, to the central station, and there was accident, and then the bus had to take an unusual road to the central station. And a lot of people will experience that because Gemini is going from here to there. So actually, just yesterday I had this experience. I was taking the train. It was a last minute decision, and then there was something that begins to feel like smoke, and then the train stopped, and where it stopped, it was this Kiryat Gat place, and it was an hour because I decided not to continue further and to take the train back. So I waited an hour at, now because it's an hour earlier, it's only one place, it's not only one type of train goes there, then I was just an hour waiting, and of course, doing some sports. And wondering when will there be people joining me waiting. So, and it was a bit scary, okay, because you see there's nothing there. But the way back was like a movie. I saw the sun setting and it looked like a photo shoot. And with Uranus, all the many trajectories eventually come to be unified. And now Uranus is also life energy. And I remember one of the things that happened to me after the Me Too. There was a guy that opened a therapy group and he printed something that I wrote on the wall as he was healing. And I was like, this is very interesting. But one of the things that I said there was, I don't do something to bring back things or whatnot. I live my life, and when something arises, then I tend to it. Now with Kundalini rise is exactly like that. It liberates us from dogma and not. I have Uranus in Sagittarius, and this is exactly, it's during a spiritual warfare that I said I used to like Jesus, but now I'm kind of like, this modus operandi is not need for me. Now, there is something that's going to happen with Uranus in Taurus that already has. When it comes to life energy, because it is Venus sign, and Venus is about bringing unification, and so on. Anything that we have residues of is rising to be dissolved. Whether any thought forms, any regimes, anything that impedes on life flow, creative energy. You know, I learned that there was a lady, Jewish lady, and she talked about the witches from Ashkelon. And this was a story where the women would meet in very patriarchal society and they would celebrate something like Samhain. And then one guy was infiltrator, he said, I'm feminist and so on and so forth. And they let him in. Then what they did, those patriarchs, they cut the women from the soil. They did not allow them to meet the land. They made architecture that women were not on the land. And so a lot of the magic was lost. What would happen to Judaism later, we all know. Holocaust, slavery, exile. 7th October, but ook in Gaza. Yes, I closed the last episode. I said, I see all these things, they make it on purpose to create problems. Then people are working on a digital, no cash system, because how will Gazans buy food? Technological. Now, here's the thing, they learned from Israel, that's the thing. But when we talk about the Kundalini rise, every single thing comes to a rise. And here is the thing, even when they try to traffic, you see, they try to traffic person, then what happens? Why was all this Kundalini rise, Tantra courses, Jade Egg, this, that? Well, why? Because after the Me Too, people asked themselves, what is the sex that I do want? And the people that were programmed and tortured since childhood, they were programmed to orgasm on something that is not good for them, but is not their authentic fantasy. And all of their healing models from sexual arousal was that they had this fantasy and so on. It's not their original fantasy. There's a trauma origin to that fantasy. And this is why meeting our non-erotic needs actually matters. To have sexuality, to reach a sexuality, is our authentic sexuality. But in that process, yes, if a person is doing the double, it's going to rise as an intimacy issue between couples. Now, even people, when they try whether to traffic or to have people as under control or whatnot, then yes, they would try to apply to the touch, to the this, to the that, and so on. This would also awaken all the things that come to and and then people become aware of things that they weren't aware of before. Now Uranus is going to go through the decan of spirit and matter. And I said some of the separations or divorces in that decan not going to be so simple, but some of them are actually going to be more simple than people thought. Uranus doesn't work with subjugation. Even with technology, then people will have a counter technology. So a lot of people that were involved in stuff, okay, they won't be able to preserve or create and preserve what they, and here's the thing, Uranus has awakened the people to desire, okay? It's such a thing where even if a certain relationship, let's say, did not work out, and there were things there that were working and things that weren't, then even when people do lover boy, for example, I had a psychologist that tried to do lover boy. They tried to traffic me. I was his patient. I was not dating him. So, what are the things that he managed to create rapport? Then I had a friend who said, I also want something like what you have. Now what? You will move in with him. And he lost his mind completely. And so that friend that never wanted was like, I am alone. I don't want relationship and this and that. And for me, it was comfortable. We were friends. Suddenly began to want relationship. And you can imagine when something like that falls apart, which of course it was, then person sees it can be a trauma, not just to me, but to people around, especially the people that saw and saw, oh, for these people, they do have something, they do have rapport, they do have something going on there. Or something where maybe if nothing happens, then there's something there. And then to see them completely fallen apart, broken or whatnot, is traumatic. Okay? When something falls apart, it's traumatic. It's not just traumatic for the people within, also for the people next to them. Also, when I and that friend, when this separated, it was very, even though people partook in making that separation, yes, it was still traumatic to them because then they had to deal with the results. They thought that he was balancing me. Now, when I'm out of this, when I'm out of the town, then they don't know how much he needs to. Same, by the way, same if it would be opposite. Okay, if he would move out or this or that, they would see me without that other factor. That, I think a lot of people that when we were friends thought we must separate them together. They only make problems, revolutions, and so on. They saw that also apart is kind of like this. Hey, that person is talking about ritual abuse in the in the Vatican. They want to have it's Inquisition o'clock, not the time for that. And I said, no, 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 but we need to tend to that. We need to tend to that. 2 days later, the Pope is exposed for child trafficking or whatnot. Astro- Somebody. The year was 2025, and some dumb fuck delineated the astrology chart of the Pope. I am that dumb fuck. Probably, if I was sitting tea with my Ukrainian friend, and he would not try to do weird voodoo on my energy, then no, when they told him to put nutmeg in the coffee, and he was very honest because we tried to do channeling experiment, and then he got message to put nutmeg in the coffee, but he didn't know why. But they were trying to put, they were trying to create the psychedelic effect of effect of nutmeg. Now, when you put it in the coffee, first of all, the coffee it heats the oil, so we put the I don't know. Anyway, I drank coffee and I said, it's very weird. I feel like I miss Feynman. that's, that's what came out of me on a spoonful of nutmeg. Um, um, but this is the thing. Now, I don't know for how long they prepared that jab. Because to go off the jabbing, it would take the amount of time that they made. Now, a lot of situations in the world in general were like this. People try to control the revolution, control the liberation, control the life energy. But the troubles that happen with that is that some people prefer to never have said anything because all the dragons are awakening. And then you can spend 10 years being a friend of someone, then you find out that they have all kinds of thoughts about intimacy that are, how should I say that? There was this lady that was taking slices of lemon and putting that on something. She glued that to something, and then she had the light of the car, okay, so dirty and so on. She stuck that lemons and began to brush it with the lemons. That's then it was shining bright. That's kind of what Uranus is doing in the last degrees of Taurus. You're a friend with someone, I don't know how many years, then people talk about what kind of relationship they want and so on. They're afraid that the woman would cheat. Then they're afraid to cheat, they're afraid that the woman would cheat because they're afraid that they will murder her. Okay. Let's stay friends. Now here is the thing with Uranus. Uranus will go a certain trajectory. It can be liberation from fear. It can be, I don't know. And then the, how should I say that? The thing that people try to control, okay, or the things that people try to take a life energy of someone and so on, they will arise as intimacy block between them or as abundance block between them. Housing crisis in Netherlands. Doing half moons on the way to the Negev where the floods were, and some dams so that there wouldn't be floods. Now here is what's offensive. For example, I can tell you, I studied aromatherapy. There are people whose sense of scent, okay, is so accurate that they can redo a scent that they see elsewhere. Or to channel for which herb is here, which herb is there, and so on. I could channel with herbs. But there are people that their talent in these things and the meticulous and the details, like, oh, I bring more simplicity. Now, by the same token, there are people that didn't want me to do astrology. Oh, they learned many years, or consulted with someone and learned many years, but they learned better per se from perspective of human traffickers. It will never be the same gnosis. Now, with Uranus, any place that wants to take from the light and create control, subjugation, and so on, Uranus will show that and liberate from that. Uranus is that thing where, I met ladies that were giving inspiring talks while surviving human trafficking. And if they would see, let's say, a girl on the beach, and the parents would say, don't be dressed like this, don't go like this, don't go like that, they would come to tell to that girl and they would say, no. You have the right to be who you are. No one has the right to touch you, no matter whatever it is, or wearing this bathing suit or whatnot. And it's not about not to go play out or this. No one has right to touch you, to harm you. Because yes, eventually, it's not about blending in and wearing the right clothes. This can work for only the type of people that partake in something that later they will feel they will not be able to sleep well, is what I'm saying. Or in dynamics where people are like just getting to know the situation or the people or the places. And here is the thing, I said sometimes people think something works for them, and Uranus has its wondrous ways. A person may think, oh, this person I can take energy from and use it to my endeavors. And then what would happen? That person would begin to do their shadow work, their growth, their this, their that. And it's kind of like a breakup afterglow. People are really suffering. We're close to the full moon. And what did I say about the full moon in Taurus? I said that this value is fixed. No matter how they try to sell subjugation, slavery, oppression, when the product is not good, and the product of such society that does these things is not freedom. What was Kim Jong-un most afraid? To be invaded. Now, if a country or place is afraid to be invaded, what would protect them? To act against rape. Now, the people that try to destroy those who tell them no. Those are people that will never know a yes. It means that they will never be truly satisfied in life. And that to begin with, they never had anything to offer. Ascendant 22 degrees Aquarius. And I said about this full moon, somebody tried to take a big action to create digital control over someone. Whether it's the dream state or energy or I don't know what. And here is the thing, the more they try to do that, the more they feel the very thing that they are afraid of is rejection. Is rejection of the essence of abuse, subjugation, slavery, violence. As long as they incorporate those things into their business, sexuality, ideology, whatnot, then they will experience consistent, chronicle sense of rejection, whether they manage to rape someone or not. And what is scary for them around rejection? Usually they're afraid of ridicule. But here is the thing. What they try to do to control other people and to subjugate them, or to take from the energy or whatnot, is so satirical that usually the outlet of a person that faces that is to joke about that, laugh about that, not even against them. Okay, just to say, well, this is ridiculous, this type of behavior. And then, unfortunately, they face all these things that they feared facing in a crisis form. Now they try to generate that, some of them try to generate that crisis to a person that either already dealt with that shadow, or they try to project it on a person that is in the light regarding that, or in the light, to try to take from their light. And this forces them to deal with their own shadow and the times that they were abused, that they were victim, and so on and so forth. And to start to tend to that, or to take action as they are now adult, to liberate themselves from that. Now the person that has done their shadow work, they're not sitting there waiting for the other person to decide to heal, to be ready to heal. They're living their lives. And each and every time, more and more things unraveled. Oh, this person, what? Are they addicted to porn or something? What they do this for a living? They traffic women. They traffic women. For what they do, aren't they like intelligence something, security something? Or for that? They planned all this Holocaust thingy. Of course, it's an intimacy block. Yes, it's affecting intimate life. Yes, of course. They sacrifice people. What is a barbaric tribe in elite? But the elite sacrifice people. Why? They worship the harvesting of wealth from other people. Okay. And try to subjugate their life energy. So they rape children and so on. Okay. So wealth redistribution is basically not just taking our power back, but this is basically the collective wealth that originally belongs to each and every individual life energy. But if the people prefer to rape one another, there will always be a bigger demon. And I ended my last episode with the saying that people in Gaza prefer to rape and traffic their women in their community than to install a solar panel and defend a waterproof system. All that sense of community amounts to nothing, where I see Mama Taliban, a woman that's trafficked that has to cover her face, returning to Gaza. As Mama Taliban, she cannot even take the veil off from her face. Not from the hair, from these people wear, I don't know. Yes, the kufia is protecting from the sun, fine. From her face. She's not Inuit. She doesn't need the glasses. In Inuit, they walk on the snow, so the sun is blocking the view. So they have these special glasses where there is a slit that shows that the light comes through, so it wouldn't burn their eyes. It's nothing that's needed in Gaza, okay? It's a Middle Eastern. It's not Dubai. It's not, okay? Not Qatar, not Sahara. It's Kind of like Tel Aviv, a bit south. You don't see people wearing tent with yeah, why? Because they don't need that. Sesame oil with zinc powder, some nice essential oil, and you're pretty much covered, and when it burns, go into the shade and drink a cup of coffee. That's how you meet the sunlight. Sunlight, humanity, humanity, sunlight. That's why you have people, they dress like Mama Taliban, that they need the vitamin D in the freaking desert. Don't get enough vitamin D from the sun. What processed food are we eating that is blocking that? But if they prefer to traffic women, the women, I know from Bedouin people, the women that are wearing like that, they are the women that are trafficked. Now, who are the clients? Not Palestinian people. What will they pay with? Not Israeli people, mostly because they go to Thailand. And that kept 75 years of an open air prison. Replace Israel with any country. Energy.